Cavs Magic, Logan. We saw a reversal today. The Orlando Magic could not put the ball in the bucket in the first two games. Today, it was the Cavs who couldn't put the ball in the bucket. Not that either of them have been doing so easily, but Orlando got a little bit of offensive juice going in this one, and they win in a blowout. What did you take away from them taking this one, now trailing just 2-1 to Cleveland?
The young guys stepped up in a big way in this game, man. I talked about how I thought Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner needed to kind of impose themselves a little more, and Paolo had been willing. His shot hadn't been falling. I was really impressed that, like, Franz Wagner took over a lot more of the playmaking responsibilities in this game. I think he kind of has to be their de facto play starter and generator and just kind of initiator of the offense, and I thought he did a phenomenal job in this game of getting downhill, collapsing the defense, kicking out to his team. Like, they missed a lot of shots off his passes, but he did enough. 16 points, 8 assists in this one. And then Banchero, man, a lot more physical. I thought did a good job of weaponizing his body, getting downhill, and his jumper was just falling. I mean, straight up, man. Like, Paolo was just hitting some of these nasty jumpers that he was missing. 13 of 26 from the field, 4 of 9 from deep. And he had missed some open threes, too. Playmaked well. This was just a great Paolo and Franz game. And then my boy Suggsy, man. Suggsy turned up in this game, dude.
Couldn't miss.
9 of 11 from the field, 3 of 5 from deep, 24 points. They needed it, man. The Magic guard rotation has been pretty abysmal. Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz struggling, Gary Harris. It's been ugly, dude. And they need one of these guards every game to step up. And today it was Suggs. And then on the inverse, I knew the Cavs Magic couldn't hold up forever, man. All their perimeter initiators go cold in this one. Mitchell, 13, 5 and 7, 6 of 16. Garland shoots 2 of 10 from the field. LeVert goes 5 of 13. Like, you just can't have that. These are your, primary scorers. If they are not scoring or playmaking well, your offense is just grinding. Like, at a point in this game, Orlando was up 26. It was like 6, or my math's off, 36 maybe. It was like 64 to 100. They were getting dogged, man. It's like when those guys don't get going, this is what Cleveland is capable of. They are capable of having these duds, and that's why I picked the Magic in 7. Like, I expected more games with this version of Franz and Paolo, and I expected more games like this of Donovan and Garland. I've kind of flipped on that. I expect the inverse of that moving forward in the series, actually. But I did anticipate a few games like this where Cleveland goes cold and the Magic gets hot. That's what's so weird, man. I feel like more in this series than any other, shooting variance and then just who's feeling it from night to night really matters more. Cleveland goes cold from behind the arc, 8 of 34. Orlando doesn't. They shoot 13 of 37. Again, Paolo, Suggs, big parts of that. Yeah, man, Cleveland's got a very low floor, dude. When they are off, and when their perimeter guards are off, Garland and Mitchell aren't getting easy looks and generating easy offense, this is the kind of floor that you can expect from Cleveland, man. I still think they're going to win out in this series. I think they've got the best player. I think they've got the second best perimeter initiator, but Mitchell and Garland are capable of having some clunkers, man, and this was one of those.
Garland's the second best perimeter creator?
In this series or for Cleveland?
In this series, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who are you taking over him? Paolo? Franz?
Paolo. Garland looks bad, and Garland has just been so disappointing this year. I've been a Darius Garland guy forever. Like, obviously, he has the playmaking. He's still going to make good decisions, but Paolo's good enough as a playmaker to where just having to do with that sort of physical imposition, like when he taps into it, he does have a tendency to settle too much and rely on these tough jumpers. But Darius Garland, Logan, in this series is averaging 11 points and 6 assists per game on terrible efficiency. He's shooting 40% from 2, and that's always the concern with Garland. Like, he's a phenomenal shooter, but even though he's quick, he can struggle to finish around the rim. He's been relying on some tougher twos, which just is not good, like some off-balance mid-range looks. In this one, he's been bad. They need him to be better because we can praise the Cavs bigs for being improved, and they are. They've been significantly better in this series than they were last year in basically every way. But, like, you're still at an offensive skill deficit to most teams. The Magic are kind of an exception because I think they're the worst offense in the playoff field with those two guys out there. And then we know that they have solid wings, but they're basically just spot-up shooters. So you kind of need both those guys to be good, or you need Mitchell to be great. And Mitchell has had really, really good moments. And through a game and a quarter, I was like, yeah, this guy's just so much better than everybody else on the floor. It doesn't matter. I still think he's clearly the best creator by a good margin, and I'm still confident in the Cavs winning the series. This game doesn't change that, but he just wasn't very good in this one. And when he wasn't, and Garland is awful, like, yikes, man, it's ugly. This Cavs offense is not good. I do think it's better than the Magic. I think they have more weapons. I think they have a more reliable star. I think they have more reliable creators, more reliable shot makers, bigger athletes to finish around the rim. They're still checking way more boxes, but goodness, this was ugly. Paolo was awesome, though. Paolo was awesome. And part of it was just like ridiculous shot making. We know that's not super reliable, right? He's like a 40% mid-range shooter. He loves his turnarounds, and he has moments where you're like, wow, how did you make that off balance? Part of it is he takes a lot of those shots, and eventually you're going to hit some of them. But this game, dude, it was just a clinic. It was awesome. Turnaround, step backs, a one-legged fall away over Evan Mobley where he picked up his dribble and just clearly didn't have a plan, and he still scored. And he started this game cold. He came out 0 of 5, and then he was 2 of 11. And then from that point forward, he made 11 of his last 15 shots, was aggressive, just kept shooting. And I liked him taking that sort of mentality as obviously far and away the best player on the floor for Orlando, especially in this game. He was also willingly taking his spot up threes and hitting them, which is something that we talked about, him passing up on good looks there in game 2, just because he's not the most comfortable spot up shooter. And then he did more physically imposing himself. You talked after game 2 about wanting him to do more of that switch hunting. There was one spot in this game where he forced Donovan Mitchell to switch onto him, like whoever the guard was screened for him. And then Paolo literally just held on and said, no, you're sticking with me, pal. And then he went and he got a bucket on him. There was another spot where he legitimately bullied Evan Mobley, got to a short jumper. Orlando got him involved as a roller a couple times. He was super active on the offensive glass. He had 7 offensive boards, a lot of those off of his own misses. Like, it was just a much better version of Paolo than what we saw in the first 2 games. And that's awesome to see, in my opinion. Of course, he has a bunch of flaws. He's in his second year. He's inefficient as an offensive number one. His decision-making can be questionable. But seeing him have a game where he rises to this level and he's just like way better than everybody else on the floor was awesome. It's good for him to have a moment like that, even if the rest of this series is pretty ugly on all fronts, honestly. But Orlando was the team who could make a shot in this game from deep. Cleveland was the team who could not make a shot. Like, that is pretty much the standard. It's who can play passable offense, who is playing awful offense. And of course, both defenses are great as well. But Orlando also just out-executed them. They were better on the offensive glass. They took better care of the ball. I thought they defended better in this game. So it's a good win for them.
And they crushed them on the glass, period. Like, this was,
well, I mean, also because Cleveland missed 1,000 shots. But
yeah.
it's true. Having more offensive boards, considering how fewer shots they missed, that's impressive.
And just, I mean, this game was over by the third quarter. You know what I mean? Like, it was an unserious game by that point. They took all the starters out. It was, 20 minutes of garbage time. So this is a beatdown, man. A good answer from a young Orlando team that, much like Philadelphia, man, I was wondering, like, are y'all going to throw in the towel? Is it time to throw it in? Like, are y'all done? And Orlando came with a lot of fight, a different game plan, a different mentality. I was very impressed. This is a very young team, man, and they answered the call today, dude. I don't feel differently about this series. I think Cleveland's a better team, but can I see this formula happening again? Where Cleveland shoots horribly, Donovan's off, and the Magic get another game? Definitely.
Yeah, I could see it too. It's going to be really rough sledding offensively for both teams, but this was an alarming Mitchell and Garland game. They need both those guys to be better. Mitchell was facilitating well early in this game, I thought, at least. Like, he was penetrating and then he was making those dump off passes, but just his shot making wasn't there. It's really Garland where I'm like, hey, buddy, you got to get going here at some point, especially if you want to make Boston even remotely have to work, because you're not getting the Magic offense on the other side of this.